That's what people need to understand. And we've massively, as an industry, completely screwed that up on every one of these social platforms because we get
Absolutely.
so obsessed with vanity metrics.
Yeah. And people ask me about retention sometimes because I'll interrupt a video and do a map tour, like a screen share map tour. If I'm talking about an area, hey, let's talk about some of the pros and cons. Then let's dig into the map to kind of talk about a couple different areas and then go back to, and people are like, didn't retention drop off? I'm like, not for the people that are actually thinking about moving to that area.
That's what matters.
That's the only thing that matters.
I would say one of the shiniest strategies in real estate, beyond, the old Zillow leads and maybe some of the traditional forms of prospecting, has 100% become YouTube. And I would also argue that it's arguably one of the most challenging strategies because there's a lot of different skill sets that are required, including potentially patience, because social media traditionally is a longer game. And as we all know, you real estate agents listening to this right now, you don't have a lot of patience. You want a deal fast. We call that commission breath. But today's guest, I am, as you all know, selfishly, and I told him this off air, excited to have this conversation. Social media topics are near and dear to me. And specifically, personally, I'm experiencing massive growth on YouTube. So I love to learn from others who are doing it at a high level. And that is why Sam Caudle is here today. Sam is a real estate agent based out of Tampa. He's going to tell us his story, and we are going to give you his playbook for how he has grown YouTube to become a lead machine. Sam, welcome, my brother.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So let's start with the let's digress. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are. You already told me off air, but our audience didn't hear that conversation. You made the logical transition from small town Oklahoma to
Yeah.
Florida, but there was a stop in between. So tell us about your story.
Yeah. So as soon as I finished high school in Oklahoma, I left and started living with friends in other states. I literally moved 5 hours away like 2 days after I graduated. And my parents were not surprised at all. I've always been a risk taker, pretty entrepreneurial, just even as a young kid. Ended up in Colorado Springs, was there for 10 years and had a really stable job, worked at a big nonprofit, had, any opportunity I asked for. They sent me to 30 countries before I turned 30 and like had all kinds of unique opportunities there. But during the pandemic, things got a little weird all over the place. And we had already kind of been talking about moving to Florida. So we made the jump.
Florida, where in Florida? Big.
Yeah, we moved to
State.
the Tampa area.
Okay.
So it is a big state. Even the Tampa area is really big. My wife grew up here, kind of over by the coast. And in that process, also decided to get into real estate. And I always kind of knew real estate was what I wanted to do next. Even for that big nonprofit, I had acquired some properties and renovated some historic properties for them. And I kind of had the bug, mostly from an investing perspective. And then was like, I got to make money. And I was like those realtors you mentioned, just kind of half-heartedly trying everything, just chasing a deal in
Yeah.
the beginning.
Yep. So what year was this that
This
you,
was 2020, June 2020.
so we're talking less than 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now here we are, fast forward to where you are. And so from a nonprofit career and ministry related,
Yeah.
right, to real estate, which I probably couldn't be any further apart. Maybe there's some similarities there, but I'm going to go with furthest apart. And not only a career change, but a, again, small town Oklahoma. I got to go back to that. I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
What is Oklahoma that bad?
Oklahoma's a hard place to live. You can't make very much money. It's so hot and buggy in the summer, and then it rains ice in the winter. I don't want to live there.
How close were you to a big city?
An hour,
Which big city?
Tulsa. I was right in between Tulsa and Oklahoma City, about an hour from both.
Got it. So you weren't far from Southwest Missouri. Um, gotcha. All right. So you move down to a market like Tampa, which is a huge city. You decide to
Yeah.
get into real estate. You start chasing business like most real estate agents do. What did that look like back then?
Yeah, that was interest rates were coming down fast, prices were going up fast. So people wanted to buy, but I was brand new. I didn't know how to talk about appraisal waivers or anything like that. And that was scary when you're new, trying to
Yeah.
like get people to do this thing that feels kind of risky. But I was hosting open houses for people. I was sending some direct mail. I was running some Facebook ads. I was going to investor meetups. I was doing everything once or twice and nothing consistently. And then I heard somebody on a podcast talk about YouTube, realtors in Denver, and they had been doing it for 3 months. They kind of mapped out the framework. We're making these videos about cost of living and pros and cons and neighborhoods. And I was like, I think this is it. I think I can do that. So I reached out to them on Instagram, kind of like asking them for permission, like, can I copy you? And they're like, yeah, go for it. And then it was just off to the races.
That's crazy. And I want to revert back to something you just said, which was doing a couple of things and then not continuing with it. I believe that is probably the biggest epidemic, maybe it's a pandemic
Yeah.
in our industry, which is salespeople, real estate agents, chasing after a strategy and not following through with it. And I think that can apply to literally any strategy, whether it's leads, whether it's postcards, whether it's farming, whether it's networking, whether it's door knocking, calling expireds, FISBOs, all the things. We go chase after them because we heard somebody talk about it who's crushing it.
Yeah.
We didn't see an immediate result, and so we quit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if you had chosen one of the other things, not YouTube, that you might be experiencing a similar success had you stuck with it?
Absolutely. I think everything works.
Yeah.
Literally everything works. No
Yeah.
matter what strategy you think doesn't, it does if you do it. And if you approach it with like a really strong plan, and then you get feedback. What's working? What's not working? Like that's the process of incrementally getting better at whatever you're doing.
Yeah. You chose YouTube.
Yeah.
But besides hearing some guys doing
Yeah.
it, why?
So I had some background with cameras. So the camera part, the editing part, not intimidating at all. Also, I thought maybe I could get comfortable with it. Maybe it'll be fun. Like maybe I'll actually enjoy it. Therefore, I'm more likely to keep doing it. And it seemed like there wasn't enough people doing it yet. In a market this big, there was, 4 active channels. None of, and one was big. Now there's 40.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine that even with 40, you're still not even remotely threatened and still finding incredible success.
Absolutely. And once you realize, one thing you realize after a while is that people contact us because they like me and they connect with me. Like that's what happens when you build a brand with your personality in it. People do get to know, like, and trust you. And what if they can do that on their TV at home? Almost 30% of our views are on TVs. So
Yeah.
I know people sit down on their couch with their significant other and watch our videos.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to rewind to the comment that you made about experience with the camera, no fear of being in front of a camera. That makes you more of a unicorn
Mm-hmm.
than the average real estate agent, the average human in general, right? And so with that said, knowing that there's a lot of people listening to this that do have that fear, do have that hurdle, do not know how to edit, should they stop listening right now?
No, that's the misconception. It's easy to like look back and think I wasn't scared to be in front of the camera, but I've read back through journals. I was scared.
Yeah.
I can watch the videos and I can tell from my posture that I'm scared.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you got to do it scared.
Yeah.
No different than like me hyping myself up to like call a Facebook lead. Like it's the
Yeah.
same. You
Yeah.
got to do it scared or go do something else.
Yeah. Do you to this so in the beginning, I imagine it was all a one-man band, shooting, editing, posting. Still
Yeah.
like that today?
No, I've done about 350 videos. I really only edited my first 100.
Got it.
So I've had an editor working for me since then. She's in India. She's affordable and she understands me and my style really well at this point.
Good. A VA, in other words.
Yeah, she sent me a cold email.
Yeah.
That people are like, "How did you find her? Did you go through a service?" I'm like, "No, I get these emails all the time." And then
Yeah.
I just sent her my calendar link and she booked a call and it worked.
I love it. I love it. All right, so let's rewind here and start us from the beginning. And obviously, you had a playbook, so to speak, that you wanted to follow. These guys in Denver. Do you mind giving us the name of that channel?
Yeah, that's living in Denver. Will Grimes and Eli Schmidt. It's kind of
I
funny
know
too.
them.
Like I remember, it's one of those moments listening to that podcast. I remember like where I was, and then I listened to it again right away, and I just got so much from it. And there, I talk to those guys every day now. It's kind of funny, but you just never know what
Yeah,
things are going to lead to.
yeah, and that the truth. And it all starts with the enrichment
Yeah,
of the noggin, which anybody, I can say that till I'm blue in the face, but the only people listening right now are the ones who get that. The
yeah,
vast
right,
majority of your industry, by the way, this is a plug for every single one of you listening to this right now. I applaud you. Sam applauds you because you're doing what's different. Now, that's only part of the battle. The next part of the battle is taking action. Um,
right.
so let's talk about action and let's talk about what does it take? What did it take? Walk us through the process. And by the way, I haven't even mentioned it, but the name of Sam's channel is Living in Tampa, Florida. The logo is a red and white palm tree, effectively. And the cover photo says Living in Tampa. It's got Sam's picture. It's a picture of a beach. New videos every week. Got his phone number. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Is that a starting point for someone? As simple as a logo, or is the starting point strategy on the content, batching videos? What is the starting point?
The starting point is like planning your first 5 videos. That's it. Like you literally don't need a logo. You don't need a website. You need some kind of phone number. It could be your CRM number. It could be, a Google Voice number. Should not be your cell phone. Should not be your cell phone at
Why?
all.
Why?
It's when your phone number is indexed online like that, you're going to get spam calls, but also in a busy season, you're going to get a bunch of leads calling your cell phone and you need them in a system. This is a business we're trying to run. We're not just trying to like be internet famous, but planning those first 20 videos, I think I said 5 videos before. Um, Planning those first videos is all that you need to do at first because people overthink the first one, but you're going to start building a library. This is not about building one video that pops off. This is about making hundreds of videos that are valuable 2 years after they're published. So when you think about it a little differently like that, I think you start answering different questions. It's not what are the prices right now? It's why would people live in this neighborhood? Why would people choose this town? Like answering those broader questions makes it more evergreen.
Yeah. Okay, so you say the starting point is planning out your first 5 to 20 videos. You've used both numbers. Um, are we talking here? Let's talk a little strategy. And I want to bounce all over the place. I'm going to kind of try to stay on task here. But when you're thinking about these videos, the
Yeah.
next question I would have, are we talking long form? Are we talking short form? Are we talking both?
These are all long form and for a couple reasons. First, I want people to get to know me, and it's just easier for that to happen in long form. You can introduce more nuance. I can, demonstrate, I can tell stories about clients. I can tell, connect with the camera a little bit and engage in certain ways with long form that you can with short form. You just have to do it so much faster. You don't, I like to say, I want my videos to feel like I'm sitting down and having breakfast with a friend.
Yeah.
Like the way that I lean in, the way that I might pause and think about something, the way that I use my hands, like all of it is like that's the setting I want people to feel like they're in. And that's where they can get to know, like, and trust me.
Yeah.
So
And let's
these
make,
videos are at a minimum 8 minutes long.
okay.
Typically, they're quite a bit longer. And they're answering basic questions.
And let's also be very clear that a short form YouTube viewer versus a long form YouTube viewer are two very different audiences.
They are, yeah. Yeah, many of our clients. So that's the goal, is conversion to clients, right?
Mhm.
Not subscribers, nothing else. Clients. Now you have to play all the other games a little bit, the views and subscribers and all that, the engagement. But our clients are typically watching our videos for 6 months before they reach out.
Yeah. Interesting.
They're studying. They're watching other people's videos too. They're like genuinely studying, what should I do? I talked to a client the other day. They've been watching since my second video published. They're like, you got us through the pandemic. And I'm like, why didn't you reach out before?
Yeah. Yeah. What'd they say?
They said, well, we just weren't ready to move yet. We
Yeah.
we
Just
knew
now.
you were our guy. Like, it's so interesting to me.
That's fascinating. That's
Yeah.
fascinating. Do you feel like when you say that, like, you know, so again, depends where somebody's at. If somebody's listening to this in Los Angeles, there's probably 400 channels to compete with. If you're listening to this in the town that Sam came from, there's probably no channels to compete with. And so when thinking about that, do you feel like the best winning strategy, especially let's just use your market, that the reason why a client is potentially going to choose you versus another channel is going to come down to what? Consistency, that you're not going to back down. You're going to have a video a week. Is it because of personalities? Is it style, editing? What is it?
Well, there's basic barriers to entry, like consistency. If you're not consistent, people aren't going to call you. Like, that's just how it is. If you don't have some kind of call to action, people aren't going to call you. Also, if you're not progressively getting better, like, people want to see you improving on the platform and not just like saying the same thing over and over.
Yep.
So let's make that like the baseline. So then, like, we can compare my competition per se. They're calling me because of my personality and because of the like geographic area I talk about. So I talk to my competitors regularly. I get called for beachfront places. They don't. That's because they live like new construction. I live closer to the beach. Like, and my stories skew that way. So like, they could just do it because of the geography, but they're typically doing it because of some kind of some kind of personality trait. You
Yeah.
just seem like a relaxed guy. And I asked them, hey, why'd you call us?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you have kids. I just thought we would connect with you easily. Oh, you mentioned you're from a small town. I grew up in small town Texas. Like, it's those kind of things. And there
Yeah.
are specific things I mention about myself so that people do connect with me.
Yeah.
Growing up in a small town, the fact that I moved here and I know what it's like to move here, and
Yeah.
that I have a family.
I love that.
Just those little like hooks that people would connect with me about.
There's a lot of authenticity built into your videos.
But I'm not showing my kids or saying their names. Like, it doesn't have to be all the way. It's like, no, just like tell your story and like have I call those tokens. And I encourage people to have very consistent tokens in their videos. Like, what is it that someone's going to remember about you?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So let's go back to the starting point. And, you mentioned that strategy. So what did that strategy look like for you as you were conceiving those first 5 videos?
Yeah, so it was very kind of SEO, search engine type topics, pros and cons of moving, don't 10 reasons not to move to Tampa. It was very kind of clicky, searchable topics. But I reached a point with that where I felt like, okay, I kind of filled that out. And yeah, maybe I'll circle back to those. I'll do a new pros and cons of living in Tampa every year or something like that, update some stuff. But then I started getting into more of like the geography. Okay, let me explain the whole Tampa area. Let me break it down into chunks that are understandable. And one of the reasons I started doing this is people would ask about areas that I didn't have a video about. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna make sure I cover the whole map and then I'll narrow it down. And I would recommend that to a lot of people. I actually have an agent I'm coaching out he's in Pasadena, so LA market, which there aren't as many YouTube channels out there as you would think.
Really?
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, let's make these broad, couple videos about LA. Let's compare the counties. Let's kind of talk about those kind of things. And then let's Make a video about Pasadena. Why do you love living in Pasadena? Tell a couple client stories in there. Then let's go to one town over. Why would somebody love living there? Like just answering that basic question, why would someone love this town? Start broad, the biggest area, and then the next biggest and the next biggest.
And then niche down.
Yeah.
Is there a playbook of types of videos that you would recommend somebody, say, work from for their first 10 to 20?
Yeah, I would do, pros and cons of your biggest areas. Say your 4 or 5 biggest areas.
So let me
Yeah,
quantify that for a second. When you're talking about a city the size of a Tampa, you're breaking it into, communities within Tampa or cities
great question.
surrounding Tampa?
So I'm going Tampa, like greater Tampa, and I'm explaining what that is.
Okay.
And I'm a map nerd, so I'm always throwing that map up there. And then I'm going counties, and I'm comparing the counties. And then I'm going Tampa compared to St. Petersburg. And then I'm going St. Petersburg compared to Clearwater. And I'm like going smaller and smaller. I would focus on, so we have 7 areas that are over 100,000 people in the Tampa area.
Wow.
So whenever you can break it down into chunks like that, it starts to make sense to people. And then they start to think how you think. And then when they call you, they're like, they use your criteria that you have in your videos. I love that.
Yeah. Not only that, you've really, I mean, that's the warmest possible lead possible. That not only they
Absolutely.
know you, you've now trained them. They now know because they probably watched a number of videos that, hey, I watched Tarpon Springs versus Palm Beach versus whatever,
Yeah,
and I know exactly where I want to be.
right.
Let's go on a search, which makes your job easier, I assume, right?
Absolutely. And especially when you're focusing on relocation clients, your job is to help them understand the whole area, not to sell in a certain neighborhood. So with a lot of our clients, they're like, I think I want this town. And I'm like, well, this other one that's 45 minutes away is really similar to that. Do you want to look at both of them? And like other people, they get so, realtors specifically gets really focused on like one geographic area and they miss some of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, let's go back to that list. You said pros and cons, and I cut you off. So carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. So pros and cons of those biggest areas. And that could be 10 videos. Then you're going into like best neighborhoods, you're going into best schools. Now that's always a tricky one for realtors. Use some other source like niche.com and say this is the schools that you guys like the best, or this is the schools that our clients choose to live nearby. Like there's all kinds of ways you could tell that story. Then you're making, best areas for families. These are like really broad stories. Hey, when our clients move here and they have, little kids, these are the 5 towns they often are choosing between. And let me tell you why.
Mhm.
Like very basic premise. Then what I did once I started breaking down the map is I built out a criteria. So I would talk about proximity, style, size, and cost. And then I made 12 videos breaking down the whole area according to that criteria.
Give me an
Just
example.
so I would do St. Petersburg and I'd do a couple minutes kind of history of St. Petersburg. I'd let myself kind of find something interesting in it and share a couple stories that I found. This is all from Wikipedia, and I actually gave Wikipedia some money that year. I felt guilty, and
They do ask, don't they?
yeah. Then um, I would talk about proximity. Okay, how far is the airport? How far is the beach? Are there, all the grocery stores you need? What are they nearby? Is there a Trader Joe's? Is there a Whole Foods? Is there a Costco? The basic things that people are asking
Yeah.
me all the time.
Yeah.
Then maybe how far away is Disney? I might throw that kind of thing in there. How far away is Tampa? Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between St. Petersburg and Tampa? Then style. Let's talk about, okay, here's the historic areas. Here's like the kind of neighborhood styles in these different little pockets. Here's kind of the vibe of the town overall. It's kind of busy. They have, really good food down here. Then I'm going to go into size. I'm going to talk about the size of the town and the size of the houses. Hey, if you're looking for a 4-bedroom house, you're going to have to spend around this range. That's the one part of the video that really ages out. But size is the town and the houses. Then I'm talking about costs, and that's going to be, ranges for homes, but then also maybe any hidden costs associated. So if it's like a new construction area, hey, don't forget about this little tax thing that gets added on, that got added on when they built the, the development on the bare land, some of those kind of things.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's easily a 20-minute video because
Yeah.
I'm incorporating a couple stories. Incorporating some opinion, but not too much opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be completely honest, and I don't want to spend a crap ton of time on this because to me, and this is just coming from a practitioner, someone who literally is going to do more of this on my YouTube channel that has seen growth, as I mentioned, as a result of shorts, is that I'm literally, as I delve into that and add that as another playlist into my YouTube channel, I'm gonna go just stalk Sam's channel for a little bit. I'm gonna go stalk living in
Absolutely.
Denver. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
stalk the people that I know have gone under the channel junkies because they have a very specific style and system of how
Hmm.
they attack YouTube, which is different than mine, but I want to implement that.
Yeah.
And so as you're listening to this, you might have a lot of questions about the style and the type of video. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't need to ask Sam any more questions on that. Just go watch his videos.
Yeah.
Go over to living in Tampa, and I can tell you that Sam doesn't care if you subscribe. I don't want to say that out of turn,
No, I know.
but he wants people that legitimately are looking at moving to Tampa. I
Yeah.
subscribe, Sam. I'm sorry. I'm just going to warn you.
It's okay.
But that's just because I'm going to stalk you because we're going to become YouTube buddies. But understanding that, and this is a great segue to the comment that I want to make, is that notice how Sam hasn't talked about like the the vanity metrics that you all become obsessed with,
Yeah.
which is views and likes and comments. I mean, comments I guess matter because it's engagement, but Sam doesn't care if he has a video that gets 40,000 views, like his most popular long form, or a video that gets 200 views if the 200 view video yielded 2 leads.
Right.
Like that's what people need to understand. And we've massively, as an industry, completely screwed that up on every one of these social platforms because we get
Absolutely.
so obsessed with vanity metrics.
Yeah. And people ask me about retention sometimes because I'll interrupt a video and do a map tour, like a screen share map tour. If I'm talking about an area, hey, let's talk about some of the pros and cons. Then let's dig into the map, kind of talk about a couple different areas, and then go back to. And people are like, didn't retention drop off? I'm like, not for the people that are actually thinking about moving to that area.
That's what matters.
That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're into monetization and then it's a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I've been monetized since I was 3 months in. I made $300 a month since then.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's different. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. It's different only because again, I'm in the shorts world. And
Yeah.
so, but and the funny thing is, Sam, I literally just got off a meeting with my 2 VAs that manage my YouTube channel. I've got an entire team of VAs. And we were talking about how like the strategy is changing now. And the longs really don't necessarily play into the shorts. And I've got to shift my shorts because all I care about is millions of views because that's what pays me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean anything necessarily for my real estate business. That's the longs, blah, blah, blah. You know where I'm going, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back on this. Now, I want to talk about creation of the video.
Sure.
Are you shooting these in a studio? Are you shooting them out in the world? And what type of equipment are you using? What type of equipment is necessary? Talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that side of this.
I'm mostly shooting outside. I like the feel of that. I like the context of that. The show's kind of like I'm actually out here, even if it's in my backyard and there's a big oak tree and a palm tree behind me. Like, even if it's that. And I'm mostly like locking off on a tripod, shooting with a little Sony camera. I have used a shotgun mic for years. Now the cicadas are too loud. People complain.
Really? So shotgun versus lav, huh?
Yeah, just because of the flexibility of it. You don't have to sync anything. I've got a nice Rode shotgun. It sounds really great.
Yeah.
I like just the flexibility of it. I started on my phone though, and I think anybody could still do it on their phone. Probably even without an extra microphone nowadays. The phones are that good.
Yeah. As long as, like you mentioned, the background noise. So you mentioned
Yeah,
cicadas. If
you have to be.
Yeah.
very aware. Like, and it
Yeah.
seems like in Florida, somebody's using a leaf blower like every second of the day. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So you gotta think about that kind of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. Got it. So just be cognizant of that kind of stuff. So you mentioned a phone.
hmm
Does it really matter? Camera, phone.
I think each of them have their pros. Like, I think a phone actually feels really approachable to people. I don't think it can still feel professional, but still feel very like warm and connected. And if you are wanting people to call you, wanting people to like get to know you, like you being fast to get the shot is sometimes more valuable than, having the fancy camera and gimbal and stuff like that.
So do you really think that so I'm gonna give you a scenario. If you go out in your backyard to shoot and you're setting up and you're gonna do how much does it cost to live in Tampa and you're gonna do the video, you're gonna cut in some B-roll and that kind of stuff. And you set up a phone on a tripod with an external mic. You set up your camera on a tripod with your shotgun mic. Do you think the average viewer could tell a difference?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No way.
I wanted people
I
to hear that.
can
Yeah.
because I'm a camera nerd and I have way too many of them at this point.
Yeah.
But no, they can't tell.
Yeah.
And they're watching it on a platform that like compresses and then like sizes, and it's like you guys are you're missing the point.
right. And the reason I asked that, and I didn't know, I didn't honestly didn't know how I was going to answer it, but I'm glad you answered it that way because I think a lot of people get caught up in that.
Yeah.
Like that's too much, having that Sony camera and the DSLR and all these things. And personally, this is all I use. I
Yeah.
have a couple of them because I like to set up different shots and things like
Yeah.
that. That's a little overkill, but that's just because I create a lot of content. But I was curious because I think about it. Do I need to up my game and go to a YouTube camera, so to speak? But I always talk myself out of it, like, nobody cares.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, I would recommend the new DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It's a little gimbal camera, but it's like handheld, super easy. The creator combo comes with like a nice lav mic, and like that's the route I would go for most people. And there's actually a channel in Detroit, Paul Wolfert is his name, and he does these like big house tours with this one camera, and he'll set it up and it's far away from him, but it's just like his personality showing, and it's like he's getting a really interesting shot just with that one little camera that to me looks a lot like a cell phone.
Really, it's interesting.
The
Yeah,
creator combo with that for that camera is like $800, and I don't think you would need anything for 4 or 5 years.
yeah, yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so and now you mentioned your setting. You tend to like to go out. So, for example, there's a video here called. Let me go. Let me go latest. Uh, Done it in Pinellas County, Wesley
Yeah.
Chapel, suburbs explained. Let's talk about. Let's just use the most recent one. Dunedin. Is that how you pronounce it?
Dunedin. Yeah.
Did you go to that area to shoot this video?
Yeah. So my 4 most recent videos, I started using a videographer.
Oh,
Yeah. So this is me learning from people too, like Ken Posick we talked about in Orlando.
mhm.
That's who I stalk now. Like, how is he approaching this like specific area, including a listing, some of those kind of things. So I'm testing things too. So with that one, yeah, we were in Dunedin. We started at like the main intersection downtown. You can see downtown behind me.
Mhm.
And then we cross the street and I talk a little bit as I'm walking, and then we stop again and I like send it to the next point, and then we went around the corner and sat at a bench. Like but everything was like within 100 feet. Uh, just I picked the spot that I knew I could get enough angles. The buildings were tall enough to make the light a lot easier to deal with,
Yeah.
and I knew it was going to look good that way.
So, all right, now you've just made an evolution and threw a curveball at me for this interview. Um, let's first rewind because I know that for the sake of value to the audience, most people are in like actually it's a good question. Let's just say we've got and there's some of you listening are probably what I would consider in the successful bucket, the bucket that has some discretionary money that could say, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to start it from day one with a videographer.
Yeah.
Now, that's the minority, I would
Mm-hmm.
guess, in my opinion. Just a simple question. Would you do it that way if you had the means?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah. Even like file management, like all that is a headache for people that have never done it.
Yeah.
Like I'm really comfortable uploading my stuff to Dropbox, sending the Notion thing to my editor,
Yeah.
reviewing it on Frame.io, and like I'm used to that.
Yeah.
But if you've got, it wouldn't even cost that much to have your editor like to have you someone shoot for you and then have a like virtual editor. I mean, you're looking at 1,200-1,500 a month to
Yeah.
produce 4 really good videos every month.
Yeah.
But what happens though, nah, never mind. We'll come to that later. There's just the input has to be consistent, not just your work going into it, but eventually for it to be like a professional level lead source, you need to know how much work it takes you. It's never going to take me a day to make a video. And one day I can make 6 videos from beginning to end if I wanted to. But you have to eventually know how long is it going to take you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you think you're pretending you're a YouTuber. You're not. You're a realtor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I know I'm a unicorn in this regard. I've created thousands of videos, probably over 1,000 podcasts at this point. So the comfortability of being in front of a camera is very, very easy for me.
Yeah.
So I know the actual video creation time. I'm pretty much one shot and done. Like
Mm-hmm.
very few edits typically, other than minor things. I'm so anal, I cut out ums and things like that, usually of guests. But I think most people would be surprised if you do the proper research about Wesley Chapel, about Pinellas County. I spend more time doing my research
Yeah.
so that when I shoot the video, it's 20 minutes, but I probably spent several hours doing my homework just to make sure the content was rich.
Right.
Is it a similar process with you?
Yeah, and especially if I'm going out and I'm shooting in a few different locations,
Yeah.
pre-production has to be really tight for that
Yeah.
to be an engaging video. I'm like, okay, now and I did this yesterday. I shot in a neighborhood by myself, no camera operator, but I did 4 different locations within the neighborhood and then described some context of where I was. And then was like, all right, now we're going to head over to this spot and we're going to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Like to have that line ready, you have to have thought about it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's well said. That's well said. And so you yesterday, for example, were setting up your, for lack of a better description, your phone, your
Yeah.
camera, doesn't matter what it is, your
All
camera
right.
on a tripod with a shotgun mic, and you just literally picked it up, moved to another location, talked about the next segment. Simple.
Right. Yeah. Sat at one spot in this little park in the middle of the neighborhood with a lake behind me. Then went over to the table right in front of me and changed the angle a little bit. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And then you will then take those videos. I'm just giving people context here.
yeah.
You'll take those raw videos. Let's just say there was 4 of them,
Mm-hmm.
and then you will, upload them to Dropbox, share them to your VA. Your VA then puts it all together, adds some sizzle, adds B-roll, adds text overlay, all the whatever, right?
Absolutely.
Is there any certain strategy that you implement as it relates to editing with your videos?
Yeah, but let me add something real quick.
Please.
I'm running when I'm hitting record, it's running for, 7 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm checking my notes, I'm re-saying things. Nothing has to be perfect.
Yeah.
If I missay something, I might re-say that whole section. But I'm never looking for it to be like teleprompter perfect.
Actually, I would argue you need to have mistakes and leave
Exactly.
them in there.
Yeah. And if you need to go back a sentence, go back a sentence. Like that was something that a friend of mine really coached me on in the beginning, who's an actor. He's like, it's just too many jump cuts in the middle of sentences. Just re-say the sentence maybe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was really helpful. But what was the question again?
As far as editing style, is there
Editing. Yeah.
a certain type of editing style? I assume that you are either preparing a powerful hook, an intro, or you're cutting something out and putting it in the front, or am I wrong there? And you're just
I'm stating the hook. just a very simple explanation of what the video is about.
So you prep it, you don't cut from it, you just prep it and insert it.
Correct. Yeah, I prefer to do it that way. I want if this video isn't for somebody, I want them to stop watching as soon as possible.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, hey, this is what the video is about, and I'm even my thumbnails and my titles, like they're very straightforward. You can see, like, I'm not going for clickbait. I'm not making weird faces. Like, I'm just not into that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know that that's right or wrong.
No,
I,
I don't. Yeah, I think it could go either way.
yeah, I was gonna say if you follow some serious YouTubers, obviously they're gonna come from the book of traditional YouTube, which I would consider, you're looking for more clickbaity thumbnails, you're looking for the faces, but really the face to match the title. The title needs to be something that's kind of ooh.
Yeah.
What I would consider just yeah, straightforward. That's the best way to describe it.
Marquez Brownlee is who I often take a lot of inspiration from. He's a big tech reviewer. You know, he has probably 20 million subscribers. And he's like, people come to me to make a big decision. So his titles are often like iPhone 16 Pro first impressions. No exclamation, very like eye-catching but simple thumbnail. Like that's more how I'm thinking of it. People are coming here to make a big serious decision. I'm not trying to bait them in.
I like it. And I noticed as I'm just kind of thumbing through your videos, I would say you're probably 60, 70, maybe 75% stationary, but you've got somewhere you're moving around.
Yeah. I've got some
And
where I'm riding my one wheel or I'm driving in the truck or all kinds of things.
the one thing I did notice though, and you all notice this if you do what I'm doing, which is just thumb over I do see your backyard there. If you just thumb over the first couple of seconds, you'll notice like as I've thumbed through these, there's almost none that are the same.
Yeah.
That's important to note. Like you're not
I
like it's
like
not
that
always this
feeling.
background.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people don't, because I think people underestimate the fact that somebody thumbing through your channel, they're not doing what I'm doing right now, and they're stumbling upon our videos. And if they see the same backdrop without giving it a listen, they might think, oh, it's the same video from that guy. I don't need to watch it.
Yeah.
That's especially important on the other social platforms, maybe more so than YouTube, but um, worth noting.
Yeah. I've definitely done some that are more like in my office. Like I might do a whole series like that, but it just starts to feel kind of stale.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we use a lot of B-roll, we use a lot of graphics. Oh yeah, you asked about editing style. Want to come back to that. But it starts to feel stale. And then you start to get comments of like, we don't need another person with a fancy microphone in their office. And then I'm like, okay, the audience is saying that they want something different.
Yeah. And I think it's important, and we get this feedback too, because again, my channel's Lake of the Ozarks. We shoot some on a boat, like
Yeah.
literally driving down the lake. Now we choose a quiet day to do it, but people love that because it just immerses them in, and they know I'm not some YouTuber, because there is one in my market who lives in Colorado who has a Lake of the Ozarks, and I think people can sniff that out.
Hmm.
They can see we're real because every time I shoot, I'm at a local restaurant. I am,
Yeah.
we're sitting on a boat, we're sitting in a golf cart on a golf course. Yeah, like we're
Yeah.
doing the things, and I think that's really important for people to
Is
know.
that Scott that has the channel?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know him. I just stalked him. I've flown by him in subs, and now I just now he's not even on my radar anymore. But I notice his channel is very much the playbook of what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yep.
And he's just a part-timer at the Ozarks. So am I, but I'm actually, as a result of influence, a funny story, moving to the Lake of the Ozarks because of
Sure.
how much business I have, not just in real estate, my media company as well. So it's crazy.
But going back to our editing style,
Yes.
we
Yes.
use a lot more graphics than our competitors. I like if I'm trying to explain something and I can put a word or a sentence on the screen, I want it there. And that's just me wanting to put more information out there. And my editor just knows if I say a population number, if I
Love
talk
that.
about a map, if I say, look at how far away the airport is, like she knows, go find the map.
Yeah.
She'll do a
And
screen recording of, I've been doing this to my editor lately. I'm like, okay, so let's do this. Let's say it's 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning and you're in Wesley Chapel and you want to get to Clearwater Beach. Like, let's look at how long that's going to take you. And she'll screen record that whole typing it in and everything.
into like a Google Maps.
Yeah.
Bingo.
And then it looks like I'm doing it, but
Yeah.
she just, when she started doing that, I was like, that is amazing.
And you know what? Because yeah, my editors do the same thing. And this is important for the audience to understand this. These VAs in India, and for me, it's the Philippines, they have the same Google we have. They can
Yeah.
search this stuff. Now, occasionally they'll look something up and it's a different city and they didn't realize it. And that's what, like,
Sure. Yeah.
expect that, right? But what you just described, like, I'm the same way. It's like sometimes I send them some B-roll, but most of the times I'm like, just go find it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Google search it. You're going to find the same Google search I find. And I think that's a misconception that people have, that, well, I can't hire somebody in the Philippines to manage my channel over here in America. Like, that's not going to work. No, it works really
Oh,
well.
yeah. We have a huge B-roll library too, and she's worked for me for 2.5 years. So she knows if I am in West Chase and I talk about a certain neighborhood, she can go
Pull from the
find the
well.
drone shot really easily.
Pull from the well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. So from an editing standpoint, your style is more graphics. Do you have any certain sort of a, what I would call maybe a cadence on? Because what I tell my editors is I never want there to be too much continuity or consistency of me talking or me and the guest talking without you doing some sort of drop in, because audiences, it's very counterintuitive to an old person, but to
Yeah.
younger audiences, to people that are on YouTube, it's like they need constant change or they get bored.
Yeah, we don't really have any rules about that. And people ask me all the time, like, how many B-roll shots per minute should I have?
Yeah.
Anytime it makes sense, anytime it helps make your point, you should have it.
Yeah.
If you're talking about traffic, there's 3 B-roll shots right there.
Yeah.
Like those kind of things. Like it's not just when you're talking about an area, not just when you're talking about a house. There's all kinds of other like contextual clues to grab to add some context. But yeah, we definitely focus more on the front half of the video than the second half. The front half has way more B-roll, way more graphics, I'm moving more if I'm like someone's holding the camera. Like the first half of the video is where you get people to buy in. If they're watching the second half of the video on their own, they're fine.
Sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love it. So, I mean, I know we're running up against the clock here. I feel like we could talk about this for hours. I mean, probably days, actually.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say is just some things that maybe I left out? You've talked about in other podcasts that you feel like you just need to make sure, kind of in closing remarks, that you add to an audience that probably spans a wide variety here.
Yeah. The foundation of this is focusing on the input, focusing on publishing a video and making your videos a little bit better every time. I remember the first view I got, I was so excited. I'm like, I cannot believe a stranger found this video that I made, that I put on a search engine. Like, what in the world? That was the only vanity metric that really mattered to me. Yeah, it was fun to like when you get monetized and when you get 10,000 subs, like all those things are kind of, yeah, you can celebrate a little bit, but it just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
But that first one, like a stranger watched this and I didn't pay any money to get that stranger to watch this, felt so rewarding. But then just focusing on the input. Okay, I'm going to keep making videos at this pace until I stop, until I quit real estate. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no real end in sight for content. You either stop making it and you shrivel away, or you keep making it and you keep getting better and you keep progressively growing.
What's the suggested pace?
The suggested pace when you start is faster than your competition.
Huh.
If they're publishing one a week, publish two.
Interesting.
You're
So
going to get to a
okay,
level though where it doesn't
let's
make
say
a difference.
blank canvas.
Yeah.
What do you suggest is the proper realistic cadence?
I think 2 a week for 6 months and then one a week.
So hit them hard and
Yeah.
then pull back.
Yeah. Build some momentum and build, a bit of a library. That's kind of, another point I would often make is like, think about building a
Get
library,
ahead.
not think about handing out newspapers at the front of the library with like catchy headlines on them. Like,
Yeah.
no, you're creating evergreen content.
Yeah.
And when the library's got 2 books in it, there's not much for people to do there. So, fill that up and then, create a pace that's sustainable for you.
Evergreen, for those of you that don't know that term, just means something that can basically live in infamy. It's a topic that doesn't go away. So you mentioned that when you talk about affordability, you just talk about specific prices, that times out, which
Yeah,
also creates an opportunity for you to redo that video in a year,
sure.
which is, I look at that as opportunity, not a nuisance, because good, I need all the ideas and things that I can get. Um, Now, the last question I just want to throw in there because I mentioned at the very beginning, uh, no shorts, no shorts on your channel.
Whenever shorts came out, I did a short a day for 30 days and they just die.
Mhm.
Yeah, you get a little bounce from them. Views doubled for the month, but then they just stop getting viewed. And any video on my channel that stops getting viewed, I take off
Hmm.
because I want the whole library to feel useful. And if
Mhm.
the audience is telling me this is no longer useful, that's okay. We'll cycle something else in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is important to note too that shorts and longs are basically two completely different rooms
They
inside of
are.
YouTube. And
Yeah.
so, although I live by shorts, not that longs aren't just as important, for me though it was different because I started this on TikTok, so that I
Mhm.
had a library of shorts.
Yeah.
maintain a library of shorts. It's easy for me because it's already there, and then all I have to do is add in the longs.
Yeah.
So different. And I think it's important for people to know that because I've heard and I've interviewed a lot of people on YouTube before that some people say don't do shorts, it'll ruin your channel. And I think they're wrong, but it's because you can't make that blanket statement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as
Right.
long as your shorts coincide with the channel, it's fine. Now, if you are mixing and matching and doing random shit, stop doing that. Like
Yeah.
stay
Yeah.
inside of the confines of what the premise of the channel is. But yeah, I mean, Sam, this is awesome, dude. I'd love to definitely stay in touch and talk more.
Yeah.
What if somebody wants to connect with you? We already told them go check it out. Living in Tampa, Florida. Sam doesn't care if you sub. You can just go stalk him. But Sam, there's got to be a reason why you want to be on those podcasts. You got to want to connect to people.
Absolutely.
What is the best way to connect with you, and what are you looking for?
Yeah. Instagram's definitely the best way to connect with me. The Sam Caudle. I mean, I have a course teaching realtors how to build YouTube channels. We have all kinds of paid community stuff. We have events and webinars, and we do all that stuff. We're at EXP as well. We love agents to join us and actually, be hands-on in their business and help them build it. But I also just want to help people.
Yeah.
I want to be known in the industry and in my market as being one of the most helpful, the one that holds no secrets back. Like that's the reputation I want, as opposed to like the some other leaderboard.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that you said that. And I as a guy who has hosted this podcast since its inception, we've done hundreds of videos. I think part of the reason why I've had success in the real estate space is because I've never been a real estate agent. I'm getting my license because I'm creating leads. But as somebody who has a lot of friends at EXP and a lot of friends at Real and a lot of friends at Keller and a lot of friends at Berkshire and a lot of friends everywhere, right?
Yeah.
What I would always tell an agent is you don't choose your brokerage based upon the name that's going to be on your shirt. So a lot of people have preconceived notions about EXP. It's a
Yeah.
dirty word in a lot of circles. I'm going to correct people in saying that just because it was a dirty word because you had a bad experience, you could be limiting your opportunity to join somebody like a Sam who could
Absolutely.
change your life because it's all about what's the value he can bring you. And
Right.
Sam's probably not going to have a conversation about how you're going to grow a downline and it's going to change your life and you're going to get rich. No, he's going to tell you how he can help guide you on growing your own YouTube channel in your market to grow your real estate business. And if the rest happens, it's just
Yeah.
purely by accident and default. And that's my plug for you, Sam, and EXP, because I've
I
got a lot of
appreciate
great
that.
friends
Yeah.
at EXP. And I get it a lot because sometimes people call me and like, hey, where should I go? And Tristan used to be EXP, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, have you thought about Tristan at E? And I couldn't even get the three letters out of my, nope, nope, I would never, I'd go to EXP. I'm like, but it's Tristan. Like,
Yeah. You got to think about the person.
you're not going to get more value than from that guy. Like,
Yeah.
but that's the misconception that our industry has. So if you listen to this long enough, hopefully I at least gave you something to think about if you're considering changing. And I am not an advocate. Sam's not paying me. So it's
Not yet.
Dude, I love it, man. This has been a great conversation. I'm glad we got connected. And I almost feel like we're probably going to have to do a follow-up at some point and maybe get a little deeper on this because this is all kind of high level. I bounced around, asked a lot of questions.
Yeah, I definitely want to do another one. I want to add something too real quick about
Yeah.
shorts. Like even in short content, you need a call to action.
Yeah.
If it's just do something. It's call or text or follow or download the guide or something. You need some kind of call to action in short content. And often that's just easier to get in long form content.
Yeah. 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 I agree. I agree. Good stuff, man. I appreciate you. And now we're connected. So we'll stay in touch and maybe we'll schedule a follow-up episode 2 and
Absolutely.
go deeper on some stuff.
I love it. Thanks for your time, Jeff.
Likewise.